朋友们，西方媒体最喜欢干的一件事就是给中国挖坑，但有时候他们挖坑不成，反而会被狠狠的上价值。今天带大家看一段极其精彩的交锋。英国 LBC 的王牌主持安德鲁·马尔试图用特朗普那些荒诞不经的言论，比如中国想重新打通霍尔木兹海峡是为了讨好美国，还会给特朗普一个拥抱等，来套路中方专家高志凯。结果呢，高志凯全程不卑不亢，不仅优雅地戳破了特朗普的粉丝滤镜，更是话锋一转，直接把炮口对准了美国非法封锁航道的霸权行径。什么叫有理有利有节？什么叫大国外交的底线思维？这段长达几分钟的采访，堪称对西方媒体预设逻辑的一次降维打击。让我们来看原片。
618. Donald Trump's violent attacks on the UK weren't even the most striking thing he's been saying today. That came with his claim that China was delighted with him trying to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. He was doing it for them, he said. Will give me a big fat hug when I get there in a few weeks. Is that really how it feels in China? Let's talk now to Victor Gao, the international affairs specialist based in Beijing. Victor, thank you very much indeed for joining us tonight. First of all, what's the attitude generally in Beijing to the war going on in Iran?
Thank you very much. From the Chinese perspective, this war launched by the United States and Israel against Iran is a war of aggression, and it should be stopped right away because it's in violation of international law, of the Charter of the United Nations, you name it. And the longer this war continues, it will really trigger a very lethal, toxic combination of three crises: energy crisis, economic crisis, and financial crisis. So China started to call for an end to the war from the very beginning on February the 28th. Now, on the other hand, China also deals with President Trump as the President of the United States, as the Commander-in-Chief of the military forces of the United States. And in that sense, we respect him as the president or as the presidency of the United States. And we are really looking forward to welcoming him on this very important state visit to China. Now, on the other hand, I don't think people need to read very seriously what President Trump is talking about China, because you really need to get to the real version of the story. Yeah. That is from the Chinese perspective.
I don't quite close my eyes and see easily the image of giving President Trump a big fat hug. Do you?
Well, in Chinese protocol and etiquette, we normally avoid hugging each other, and we deal with each other with a dignified handshake. So I hope that will be what President Trump will get when he visits China.
It's been very interesting. Trump was talking about the Strait of Hormuz particularly and reopening it. But we all noticed yesterday that one of the big tankers that went perfectly freely through the Strait of Hormuz was a Chinese tanker carrying ethanol. From your perspective, does China have real problems with getting through the Strait of Hormuz, or do you have an agreement which allows you to carry on passing through that waterway?
First of all, allow me to emphasize that the Strait of Hormuz was open for free navigation on and before February the 28th. And we know what caused the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, and China is completely opposed to the root cause leading towards the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Secondly, China has military resources and naval ships in that vicissitude, and China is committed to defending its right of free navigation through the Strait of Hormuz, as well as refusing to recognize the legitimacy of the US-imposed naval blockade in that neighborhood. Therefore, I think Chinese ships enjoy the right to go by the Strait of Hormuz, as well as in the water close to the Strait of Hormuz, because China is not only doing the right thing, China is also backing it up with real military forces and naval ships in that neighborhood. China does not recognize the legitimacy of the US naval blockade.
Sorry to jump in, but that is absolutely fascinating. Is there therefore a danger of China and America finding themselves firing at each other, finding themselves in a state of war?
Well, I hope not. I hope the U.S. Side, including their military, will know the full consequence of firing at a Chinese military object or disrupting the free navigation of the Chinese naval ships as well as commercial ships. Because if there is only one country in this world that the United States cannot afford to dismiss or completely disregard, it is China, based on its overall strength, its commitment to defending its legitimate interests, as well as its very open eagerness to deal with the United States on completely equal basis with each other. So I hope the American side will not second guess China's commitment and misread China's real intention of standing very firmly to defend its legitimacy and all the rights as derived from the international law, as well as under the United Nations Charter.
One of the possibilities that's being talked about is the United States going on to seize some of the islands around the Strait of Hormuz, and indeed even perhaps part of the coastal littoral of Iran there. Would there, if that happened, would there be a read across to the situation regarding Taiwan?
Well, first of all, I think philosophically speaking, my personal view is that President Trump and his government are damned if they want to escalate the situation, and they will be damned if they do not escalate the situation. And they are completely responsible for this dilemma they find themselves in, aided and abetted by Israel and Prime Minister Netanyahu, of course, because the best way to end the closure of the Strait of Hormuz is to end the war immediately. And if the United States further escalates, it will really trigger the toxic combination of three crises combined together: the energy crisis, which is already happening, the economic crisis, which is happening, but the data thereof probably is trailing behind, and then the very lethal explosion of this financial crisis.
太精彩了！高巨凯这段回应完美诠释了什么是把最狠的话用最平静的语气说出来。主持人本想拿特朗普的狂言来带节奏，甚至抛出中美会不会在中东开战这种极端假设，但高先生根本不顺着你的杆子爬，他直接指出问题核心是你美国先违反国际法，是你美国在非法封锁，而中国只是在行使合法权利，而且划重点，我们有真正的军事力量在现场支撑我们的权利。这句话是说给英国主持人听的，更是说给华盛顿听的。特朗普可以继续活在他的推特治国和真人秀里，但在现实的地缘政治棋盘上，中国不看你的表演，只看你的动作。在这个世界上，没有哪个国家能让美国不敢无视，除了中国。这句话真提气。如果你也觉得这段反击干得漂亮，别忘了点赞分享，我们下期视频再战。